What's up, guys? You know who it is. Marcus J. Jackson with another Live Life episode for you. Number 32 to be exact, okay? Tonight I'm going to be talking about my spiritual journey, part 4, and how to start yours, all right? So, as you know, the Live Life episodes or the Live Life series, are dedicated to a buddy of mine that I spent some time in the army with. He decided to take his own life because he could not understand how to be a homosexual and also be a Christian at the same time. Um, so he was climbing the hierarchy of church and could not figure out how to balance his alternative lifestyle and be a Christian at the same time. So um, that turmoil caused him to take his own life. Um, so it was a heavy blow for me. I know it was a heavy blow for his family. So that's why I decided to start doing this Live Life series. I make myself available every night from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. And I basically talk about mental health, suicide prevention, and suicide awareness. And this is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. Okay, and it's just my way of basically, giving back. And if you want to call me, you are more than welcome to. My contact number is 469-626-7486. All right. If you call me after 2 a.m., I am probably asleep. But you're more than welcome to call me at any time. Keep in mind that I am a realtor, right? And I'm also a life coach. So I'm on the phone anyway. So leave me a message or shoot me a text message and I will get back with you. If not, you can reach me by inbox, and I always return my inbox messages. You can go back to some of the videos and you'll see where I refer back to the comments or I refer to the inboxes that, we talked about the previous night or the previous morning or whatever. So good morning to you all. Allergies are kicking in. Oh, goodness. Okay. So good morning to everybody. It's 12:10, all right? Had a client on a different time zone, so sometimes if I pop on a little late, that's usually why. Um, because of that. So I went international about a year ago, and I had my first international client, and from there I was referred to another international client. So I'm pretty excited about that. But um, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. Um, Feel free to reach out to them, and they have resources available. They have people that you can talk to that are available 24/7, all day, every day. All right, and have other resources that you can tap into. They also have a live chat. It's called Suicide Prevention Lifeline.org. Okay, you can get on there and you can chat and you can look at the posts and you can see different countries like the UK, Australia, Canada. All right, so wherever you are, go ahead and reach out to the number according. If you are in danger of hurting yourself or someone else, you need to call 911 immediately. All right, hop off this video and call 911. All right. Um, so that is it. Let's go ahead and get grounded real quick. Bring ourselves back to our body. Become present. No longer worried about the past. No longer concerned about the future. Worried about right now. So take a deep breath. Blow it out. Once again, take a deep breath. Blow it out. Last time. Take a deep breath. Blow it out. right. Okay. So here we go. My spiritual journey, part 4. I know I left off. I talked about the divorce, and I talked about being had the church intervention, if you will. What else? Let me see. And so I'll just do a quick review. So once I started actually reading the Bible for myself, like actually reading the Bible for myself, studying the Bible, right? Going beyond what I've heard in the church, because my father was a pastor, and I've heard hundreds of messages from him, and probably if not thousands. And we visited other churches, so I've heard hundreds of other pastors speak by this time, okay? And then going on, searching for enlightenment through spirituality in the church or in organized religion. I brought my family to a church as well. My wife and I, my children, we went to church, and whole gambit of everything, right? And I was always looking for something more. Like I knew there was something there, just didn't know what it was, did not know how to find it. So when I began to ask questions about the things that I was studying in the Bible, it turned offensive to the Bible teachers or the preachers or the pastors at the time, because they didn't have an answer for it, right? So it was a clear case of the student is surpassing the teacher. So just like when you are beginning to grow out of a circle that you're in, right, and everybody's on like a low vibration, and you are steady vibrating higher, then some of the things that you do are going to become offensive to other people because they're not where you are yet. They're not there yet. So there's going to be a little bit of envy. There's going to be a little bit of jealousy. So, keep that in mind. Let's see this. There we go. So, who's that? Good morning, Rashawn. How's everything? So keep that in mind when you are on this journey for enlightenment, right? Because you're going to talk different, you're going to act different. You're no longer going to be interested in the things that your circle of friends are interested in, right? You're going to look like an outcast, okay? And I think if a lot of people knew this, or they knew what to expect, it may change their mind on wanting to stay on this side of life, right, as opposed to choosing death. Maybe they will think that, hey, at some point there is a different alternative, right? Listen to the bald-headed guy on on Facebook, right? So if you get to that point, where what you're learning or the things that you're studying, nobody has an answer for it, then it is time to move on. So, needless to say, I no longer attended that church. And like I said, I was studying the information that I received about the doctrine of predestination at the time. And I went to the school that I call Brown University, right, in Tennessee. And it was like I spent 5 years there learning in-depth theology, learning different types of thoughts, different schools of thought. It was like a PhD level, college course. It was beyond, some of the stuff that I learned there, you would never hear in the church. You would never hear anybody talk about, because these are things that you would find researching, right? Like Hastings Encyclopedia. Like I would have never known what a Hastings Encyclopedia was, or a McClintock and Strong's Encyclopedia, right? Or Cyclopedia, or Theological Cyclopedia, right? So Layard's in Nineveh is another theological cyclopedia, right? So I would have never known that this stuff was out here, right? There was more information out there than just a fear-based belief system, which I've put my faith and understanding in an outside entity all of my life, right? And now that I come into, I begin to study my Bible and I see more of biblical principles in more biblical context pointing towards me, pointing towards myself, pointing towards the knowledge of self, right? So when you begin to see these concepts reflect in you, that's how you know these things are becoming more than just it's more than just dogma. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. If you don't repent, you're going to hell. And I used to tell people that. I used to literally tell people, if God does not change your heart, you are going to hell. Like, I would tell them that with no equivocation whatsoever. Like, it just did not matter to me how they felt, because I felt like, when Paul said you should speak the word in great plainness of speech, that's what I did. I was very, very blunt and very, very aggressive, with the word of God, right? So it's very now it's very, very touching, right? And now I feel great compassion now, because just like Paul in the Bible, in the New Testament, he was convicted on the road to Damascus and had to, basically go back and tell all these Christians that he was sorry. I mean, of course, I didn't go back and apologize to anybody or anything like that, but I was brutal. Like, I was a pure asshole to some of these people, and even to my wife at the time. Like, I was really, really brutal when it came to truth. Like, I wasn't. There was no compassion. Hey, you need to learn what the Bible is really saying, and that's it. Like, it was like my way or the highway. There was no middle ground. There was no middle ground. You're gonna have to do what the Bible says do. We're gonna live our life according to the Bible, and that's it. So, and ultimately that caused me to lose my family, my children and everything. So because I was reading the Bible, she thought that I was, oh man, he's possessed with the devil, and he's pulling all of these things out of the Bible that are not really there, right? And I'm like, no, I mean, this is what it actually says. This is what the words really mean. So when I started going back into the Greek language and the Hebrew language and understanding what the actual words meant, as opposed to just listening to what my father said or just listening to what other pastors said, and information that they got from their mother, and their mother got it from their grandmother, and so on and so forth, never really understanding what the Bible actually says. What are these concepts that Jesus actually taught, right? So it was so much more than just sitting there in a pew, listening to a lecture every Sunday. There was a lot more to it. So, and especially if you're on the fence about suicide because you think that you've sinned in some kind of way, or you think that I don't know, like you've messed up and there's no way to fix it, right? And I will be the first to tell you, I've messed up tremendously, right? Like I said, because my beliefs in what the Bible was saying, right, which was still a fear-based Christian concept, right, but it was just more literal, a lot more of a realist mentality, more of an orthodox Christian mentality, actually understanding and doing what the Bible says do, right? But in the end, they're just belief systems, they're just ideas. They're only concepts, right? And I didn't know that at the time. I took it literally. I didn't know, just like Galatians 4:24 says, this is an allegory. Like, I didn't know the Bible was an allegory. I didn't realize they were just stories and not real people. And because I thought they were real people, when when the pastor said that we would go to hell, or if you don't repent you're going to hell, and God doesn't hear sinners and so on and so forth. So when and I have to come down to the altar and get saved and so on and so forth. So when I heard that, I felt ashamed. I felt guilty, right? That fear-based, low vibrational stuff, right? And that's what we subscribe to. And that's what I subscribed to for many, many years. And now that I have understanding of the concepts that we're trying to be taught, right? It's completely different now. But I had to go through losing my family over how serious I took the Bible, right? And for us that still deal with this on a regular basis, you're still at odds with the church or at odds with organized religion, and you just think there's something more, I would invite you to simply hook up with someone that shares the same thought process. And like I said, you can reach out to me, 469-626-7486, right? I'll make myself available, for any questions that you may have about, your spiritual journey, and you just want an explanation because there's something that's just not right. Like the dots are not connecting with this whole organized religion thing, right? I have a doctorate in divinity, in which, it was a piece of paper and I viewed it as a piece of paper that lost me my family. Like I sacrificed my family for a piece of paper, right? So I never even claimed to have one, because what does that really mean? It doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't do anything for me as far as bringing myself to the knowledge of, bringing my vibration to the knowledge of self, right? It's just a piece of paper that literally does nothing for me, right? It's just saying that I have gone through the proper courses or classes, and it certifies that, I know on a doctorate level what divinity means. Whatever the hell that means. So it doesn't mean, I'm better than anybody else, or, anybody's less than I am, or anything like that. But that should let you know that the state of fear-based belief system, the mental state that it has us in, is killing us. Like, it's breaking us apart. We're full of depression. We're full of stress. We're full of anxiety. Our hormones are out of whack. Like, we're walking around with, thousands of prescriptions that we're taking, right? People are having mental health challenges, and we go to the doctor, and the doctor's calling us crazy, or they're diagnosed us with all these alphabet diseases, ADHD and ABCD and EFG and HIJK, like all these different types of diseases that they're diagnosing us with, and we begin to identify with them, right? Just out of fear. Like, the whole point of even going to the doctor is based out of fear, because we refuse to eat and drink and do the things proper to maintain our bodies, right? We don't want to do that. So of course we go to a doctor on a regular basis to check and see if we're okay, right? Check and see how long we're going to be able to eat and drink whatever we want, as much as we want, until we get sick. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird, but that's a fear-based mentality also. That's also a low vibrational mentality. So it's like, wow, so what do I do? How do I come out with something like this? And this is what I did. Once I began that study, right, and I really, after the completing the divinity course, I began to study even more, right? So I went into African spirituality. I went into, excuse me. So, so I began to study and read. Right, that was one of the biggest things that changed my thought process about fear-based belief systems and just increasing my overall knowledge of self. Was I began to read more, read more books, and it started with African spirituality. It started with quantum physics. Then I started going into metaphysics. After metaphysics, I went into more of some of the esoteric doctrines, like the coming forth by day and night. I don't have my notes. The Dead Sea Scrolls. There's some other books. There's some other books like Alfred Edison has the Temple and its Ministries. That's a good book. Manners and Customs of Bible Land is a good book. I think that's by Alfred Edison also. Getting into, just going into the different, I started to learn about the Yoruba. I started learning about the Kundalini. So a lot of different, there was so much. And I began to reconnect with all of the knowledge that I learned when I traveled, because I was in the Army and I spent a lot of time traveling. So I began to connect the dots with the stuff that I learned in Korea, right? The stuff that I learned in Germany, the stuff that I learned in Iraq and Afghanistan, and connecting with the different cultures and people in the world, right? Because when you go overseas, or you go on trainings with the military, you come in contact with other soldiers from other countries, like the British, the Israeli, and Iraqi soldiers, and the French soldiers, Canadian soldiers, and a lot of them have totally different customs and cultures based on their belief system, right? So you get a whole touch of Buddha, Krishna, all of the different Hispanic or Mexican deities, if you will, Egyptology, right? So studying all that, for the last 10 years, 11 years, until, a very, very in-depth study is what it took to understand a lot of these things. And I think what did it was thinking of terms of frequency, vibration, and energy. That's what really made the difference for me. And I began to, okay, so now I see why, some people just don't get it. You ever with somebody, or you're in a circle of people, and you reach a point to where like they literally just don't get it, no matter how much you try to tell them, no matter how much you try to show them, they just don't get it. So that's where I was, right? Even though my some of the things that I learned in the Bible were I took literally, right? I was still very passionate about it, and they were true according to what the Bible said, of course, right? So keeping in context with the Bible, then yeah, I was spot on, but the way I was doing it was totally wrong. I was trying to force my family, or force feed my friends and family what this was about, and therefore scaring them away because they just did not want to hear it, right? Or they didn't want any parts of it. They, everybody's just content with going to church and listening to the pastor. They have no desire to study the Bible, right? They just don't. It's not something that they care about. Yeah, they'll read it every now and then to find out what they're looking for. But other than that, there's not a lot of people who care about what the Bible actually says or what the concepts actually are, because they're so indoctrinated. It's so deeply indoctrinated, they dare not even question what the pastor says, or they dare not even question God or question Jesus, right? Even though the words were put in the book for us to read, we will still completely reject any type of knowledge or any type of wisdom being imparted to us, right? So, that's just kind of, hey, the way the ball bounces. But please do not feel like um, a religion is worth losing your family for, or feeling like rejection from some type of religious based, fear based organization has rejected you because of your lifestyle or because of the way that you are, right? Please don't check out, take your own life over something like that. Like I would rather you not take your life at all, and just completely detach from fear-based belief systems and try that first before taking your life ever becomes an alternative, right? Because you will begin to see that the way that you feel is okay, right? There's nothing wrong with you trying to figure out how to make the best decisions for yourself, right? It's what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, right? And that's one of the biggest things we have to realize, because they say that we have mental health challenges, or they've created all these different types of diseases to label you with, does not mean that it's necessarily true, right? Because if you are, if you're schizophrenic and you hear voices, you could be clairaudient, right? Maybe you're hearing everything, you're hearing people's thoughts, right? And you're having trouble separating your thoughts from other people's thoughts, right? There is a such thing as clairaudient. Maybe you're clairvoyant. Maybe you're clairsentient, right? And you can sense people's feelings, right? And you're an empath, right? And you can, you can feel people's energy. You can feel the negativity on them when they walk in the room, right? That's clairsentient, and that may cause the paranoia, because you're taking on these feelings and you don't know where they're coming from, but it's like, why do I feel this way? When this person's in the room, I feel this way. When this person's in the room, I feel that way. And you label schizophrenic, right? Or I'm sorry, you label paranoid or clairvoyant, and you're seeing things. You see things before they happen, or you see, you can see a little bit into the future, or you can see, you have a visual of what's going on. You can see through the veil, right? There's a lot that has an explanation for it, but there's a great deal of us that do not want to hear that. And because of fear-based belief systems, it keeps us from understanding exactly who we are, right? It keeps us out of touch with who we are and our abilities and how much power we actually have, right? Because everybody else does things out of force, right? And if you have not read the book Power versus Force by Dr. Hawkins, you need to get that book. It is a must read. That is one of the books you need to read in your lifetime, is Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins. It is an excellent book. It breaks down a lot of what I'm saying, on more of a scientific level through research and experiments and tests and so on and so forth. So anyway, I would invite you to read that book. All right, you can get it at Half Price Books. You can download it on audible.com. You get a free book every month for $14 a month, and you can download other books as well. So yeah, definitely. That's definitely something that you want to invest in, is reading material, books, and things of that nature. So let me take a quick break to see if anything is going on my comment feed. Nope. All right. Good. Okay. So rocking and rolling. Wait 1 second. Okay. So then, and I hate I got off like that, but there's a lot of things that I like. You have to explain when you're dealing with things like this. Because people have questions. You know, they have questions. They want to know what these things are because they've never heard anybody talk about things like this. And just so you know, I'm not bad mouthing people that go to church. I'm not putting my mouth on God's anointing people. So it sounds so disgusting. You know, I'm not doing any of that, right? I'm not bashing the church or anything like that. I'm talking to the people who are looking for something more, or looking for something. They're in a point in their life where fear-based belief systems are no longer serving them, and they are looking to transition. They want to transition into the knowledge of self. They want to learn how to become the strongest version of themselves. They want to learn how to apply what they've learned on a daily basis, right? You know, that's what they want. Those are the people I'm talking to. If you got it together, you know, you saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost, I am not talking to you. All right, I'm talking to those who are trying to make sense of it all. Who are trying to connect the dots because they're no longer being fed when it spiritually when it comes to fear-based doctrine. Okay. So after studying there, I began to go even deeper. So after I divorced, then I get remarried, then I find someone who aligns with my belief system, in which I thought when I did that, that's going to make everything okay. There's nothing we can't work out because we have the same beliefs, right? We believe the same way, right? She believed the way that I believed, and you know, we were okay. I believed the way she believed. We had the same, shared a lot of things in common when it came to spirituality, right? So we divorced, and I was not a whole person yet. I had not recovered from my previous marriage, right? Because I needed, you know, I needed more time. Like I needed more time with myself so I could find myself, right? And I made a decision to get married, then I shouldn't have. So same thing with you guys. If you feel like you made a decision that you're not quite happy about, or you feel like it wasn't the best decision, I would invite you to reach out to somebody, okay, and talk to them before you decide to make a permanent situation for something that's temporary, right? Because yeah, you feel bad. Yes, you know, you did make the mistake, or you did do something wrong in, you know, in your eyes. I totally get it. Or you feel ashamed, or the guilt is causing you to have suicidal thoughts. Please understand that it is the belief system, right? It's not you. Your belief system is something that can be changed, right? There's something that you can be enlightened. There are answers for you, all right? Please don't think that that's it, all right? And I don't want you to, you know, to make that call until you have explored exactly what it is that, you know, you're feeling, right? Exactly, you know, why do you want to transition yourself? Like, why do you no longer want to be here, right? And if the reasons why you don't want to stay on this side of life have anything to do with fear-based belief systems, right? Which is thinking that God or you are disobeying God, or God is not going to forgive you for something that you've done, and you think killing yourself is the best thing to do so that you can go to hell, right? And that's how a lot of people think. They think if they punish themselves by killing themselves, then God won't have to worry about them, right? So because they're not going to go to heaven anyway. And they don't think they're going to see God anyway because of the things that they've done in life. Um, I would invite you to get some help first. Get some help, okay? Get some help. Find someone to talk to. Find someone that will listen to you. Find someone that you trust, right? Because it's not that serious, guys. It's not that serious to lose a family, lose the support of your friends because you want to study the Bible. Because I've studied the Bible, right? And I felt like living by the Bible was the thing to do. And so not one marriage, but two failed marriages, right? Because of my belief systems, right? Because I felt like, my belief system was violated, and I, it should be corrected. Like, we should live our life we should be on one accord, as the Bible talks about. So if somebody believes something different and you're not on one accord, the Bible says that you're not going to make it, right? And I'm just like, no, that's not really the truth. It's not really the truth. And a lot of people feel that way. They feel like because of their lifestyle, or because they live an alternative lifestyle, they think that the Bible is speaking against them, because they go to a church or an organized religion, and they listen to the fear-based doctrine. They listen to the things that are spewed from the preachers and pastors, and it makes them feel guilty. It makes them feel ashamed, right? And that's all a part of the doctrine, and it's very unfortunate, because I too used to preach that same stuff. I used to preach that, if you don't repent, you're going to hell. If man lies with man, he's going to be struck down with fire and brimstone. And, if woman lies with woman, she's going to be struck down but with fire and brimstone. I used to tell people that, but I understand now, right? There's a whole new, on the other side of that fear that I lived in for so many years, there is there's a knowledge of self that brings you truth, right? It brings you to a truth, right? And then a lot of people say, oh, well, the truth is subjective. Okay, fine, I get it. But once you come to the knowledge of self, and you understand in terms of vibration, frequency, and energy, all these things begin to make sense, right? And you begin to understand that there's a history behind the androgynous spirit. And you begin to understand there's a reason why, the homosexual exists, right? So when you're able to make sense out of it, and you know where it comes from, and you realize what it is, then you no longer have to be afraid, right? So just like my buddy, he could not understand how it's possible to be a Christian and also, be a homosexual. Like, he didn't understand that. He struggled with that to a great degree, so much so that he took his own life because of it, right? So why then, how come nobody's talking about that, right? How come, if I know he's not the only one that feels that way, and I don't want you to feel like you're the only one that feels that way, right? It's not the truth, right? It's not the truth. Hell and heaven are mental concepts, right? In your mind, you create your own heaven. In your mind, you create your own hell, right? And when Jesus was here, he wasn't talking about, if you read through the Gospels, there's nowhere in the Gospels where Jesus was dealing with a common man, okay? He was not talking to the common man. All throughout the Gospels, Jesus is coming down on the Pharisees, and he's coming down on people that were cheating other people financially, right? Because you have to understand what was going on at the time, where they were charging people dowries to be to ensure that their family was going to heaven, right? Or to pull their family out of hell if they live a sinful life, right? So there's a lot that's going on in the Bible day that lines up with historical events, right? But we don't know that because the only thing we do is listen to what the pastor says, and it's it's very, very unfortunate that happens. And it brings us to that point to where we don't have any other alternative, and we think suicide is the only way out. Because if we kill ourselves, then God won't have to deal with us, right? We'll die because we killed ourselves, and we'll go straight to hell, right? We won't have to worry about God. Well, no, it does not work that way. Let's get rid of that thought. All right, let's erase that thought from our minds, and suicide is no longer an alternative. All right, say it with me. Suicide is no longer an alternative. Say it again. Suicide is no longer an alternative. All right, because there is answers. There are people out there that can provide answers to you, right? And preferably it's someone who has knowledge of self, who has a spiritual aspect. And I'm not talking about biblical spiritual. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who is enlightened, conscious of aware, has knowledge of self, and understands that they are a God, right? And understanding that the Bible are concepts attributes that we find in ourselves, right? Jesus himself said, no one is greater than the next. I'm not greater than you, but can you do what I'm about to do? Can you drink the cup that I'm about to drink? And to drink the cup meant to undergo a death, right? Are you going to be able to die to the body just like I'm about to die with the body? Because his vibration was higher. He was enlightened. He understood. He got the concept, right? That's why he never came down on the common man. There's nowhere in the Bible where Jesus is concerned about who somebody's having sex with, right? But yet we're afraid because of fornication. There's nothing and they say, well, the woman at the well, he told the lady that she was sleeping with all these different men. That's not that. We don't know that. We don't know that. That's something that we've conjured up because it fits the narrative, right? That's not, that's not what it is. No, that's not what it meant, right? And if so, let's just say that's exactly what he meant. He didn't rebuke her. He didn't tell her, that she was going to hell. If anything, she said, hey, I see what you're doing. Hey, you might want to make better decisions or whatever, right? But it does not say he told her or he talked bad to her or came down on her or made her feel ashamed or made her feel guilty, right? About having, several husbands or whatever, right? That's not something that he did. And I will gladly talk to anybody that you need me to talk to help them understand that. And if not, then hey, so be it. But that's not the case. Okay. So, fornication is not what you think it is. You're not going to hell because you had sex with somebody and you weren't married, so get that out of your head. So there's no reason, if that's the reason you think suicide is the alternative, let's get that out, right? Because you had sex with somebody doesn't mean you're going to hell before you were married. Just because you divorce somebody does not mean you're going to hell, right? Does not mean God doesn't love you because He instituted marriage, and marriage was instituted by God, and let no man put asunder what God has put apart, right? I get it, but that's not going to send you to hell if you divorce your wife. If your husband or a wife is beating the crap out of you on a daily basis, you're going to stay in there and you're going to hang in there until someday he breaks your jaw or he breaks a body part, or beats you to near death. Then you decide to leave at some point, or you decide that it's okay to sleep on somebody's couch for 6 months or a year as opposed to live with this psycho, right? You'll understand that. But it's just we're very, very reluctant to take information from people because we operate in such fear. There's a lot of fear that we operate in, and I want us to come out of that. Like, I want us to come out of fear-based belief systems and start to trust yourself, right? Trust yourself. Discover the knowledge of self, and accept help from people, right? It's okay that you need help. It's okay that you need to talk to someone. It's okay that you need someone to listen to you. Okay? It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you because you have questions about the Bible. There's nothing wrong with you because you have questions about your salvation, right? Excuse me. One young lady asked me a question about, is meditation going to affect her relationship with God? And I was like, whoa, wow. I had no idea that people thought that way. So I was very, very ignorant to that. I thought people knew meditation did no harm, right? I didn't know that. That's something I never heard of. So, and I explained to her, no, meditation does nothing, it does no harm, right? It can only do good. Just like Reiki. Reiki does no harm. It only does good. It only does what it's supposed to do, right? So, don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like you're the only one that feels that way. And I'm telling you, please stop with the thought that because I broke a biblical rule or God said don't do this, that I'm going to go to hell, so I may as well kill myself anyway. No. So let's erase that from my mind. That does not exist, okay? So I'm going to cover a few things real quick about how to start your spiritual journey, right? And before I do, I'm just going to finish up mine. Because I went through all of this, I am now a life coach. I'm a transition coach. I help people transition from fear-based belief systems to the knowledge of self, right? I help them become the strongest version of themselves. Because some people are fine with what they learn in church. They could care less about anything other than church, but they want to know how to apply basic principles to their life to become the strongest version of themselves. I help out with that also. I have clients that I do that with also. So after, to end my spiritual journey, and it's never ending, right? But just to end the video, this will be the last part. But after all the studying, right? After spending all the time getting a piece of paper, a certificate, the epiphany hit that none of this stuff is that serious for me to give up my family or to try or to condemn someone over their choice in way of life, right? I learned that lesson the hard way, right? I've learned that I cannot force my beliefs on anyone, right? I learned that because I believe a certain way does not mean that it's the only way, right? People do whatever it is that they want to do, right? They choose whatever they want to choose in their life. People make the best decisions for themselves. Okay. So fast forward to my wife now, who is totally a freed mind individual. She is exactly the balance that I needed, right? As I was beginning to come whole, right? I was whole. I was just coming into wholeness when I met my wife, when I met Foxy, and I was over, my marriage. I was over my last two marriages. I was completely over them, and I was ready to move on. I was ready to move on with my life. I wasn't worried about a woman per se, or being with a woman per se, because I was whole. I was ready to conquer my own life. I was ready to be independent in the whole nine. And until you get to that point, that's where you need to stay. You need to stay single until you get to the point where you don't even need a woman in your life for your wholeness. You need to become whole first, and then you bring the woman or man into your life, right? But then you have to make sure that they're whole also, right? Or it's going to be a journey trying to get them at a whole state of mind as well. And fortunately, Foxy was at a state where she was becoming whole also, right? She was completely over the experience. She had learned from it. It was no longer bitter about it, right? So we, being two whole people, we understood now that we no longer needed anybody to make us who we were. We didn't need a fear-based belief system to make us who we were, right? And even though her mind was freed and my mind was freed, there's still, a little bit of fear-based doctrine in us, because we were both raised in the church. She was raised in the church just like I was raised in the church. So, and we still did some things, we had a few hiccups here and there, but now, I understand I had to go through all those things, because now when I met Foxy, and her being an open-minded individual, I was able to accept how she believed. She was able to accept how I believed, and it was harmony. It was very, very peaceful, right? Very joyous experience all the way up until this day. I mean, it's just been a wonderful experience. So, yes. Now, with that being said, that's going to bring my spiritual journey to a close, basically. And I'm going to show you how to start yours, right? So one of the main things you want to do is you want to seek truth, right? And how do you seek truth? Is to question everything. Literally question everything, right? So if you are struggling with suicide because you are a homosexual, right? Tell whoever, right? Get with somebody and tell them to show you that in the Bible. If you are a Christian, or you call yourself a Christian or whatever, right? And you think suicide is the only way out, I challenge you to have someone tell you where that's in the Bible. Oh, you can call me, and I will show you what they use and what they refer to as homosexuality in the Bible, right? And then I'll explain to you the history. I'll explain to you where these thoughts come from, right? And I will explain to you the agenda behind it, okay? And that way you'll understand why they think the way that they think, why the church rejects you because you're a homosexuality or a homosexual, or they embrace you because you're homosexual, and you may be having issues with it, right? I'll be more than happy to help you with that. So seek truth, question everything. Doesn't matter what it is, right? Question it, because you don't know. Truth is subjective. You know, people tell you that all the time. And truth is based on what is going on at the time, right? So the truth about the Bible is different from the truth of the day because there's different things going on, right? So, you know, like I said, and everybody's the truth is subjective. It's just subjective. And it's like, do you even know what that means? You're throwing that around like I don't know. Anyway, stop being negative. So seek truth, all right? And seeking truth is you got to read, like you got to study. This stuff isn't going to come easy, right? But you have a feeling, like there's a feeling in you, there's something in you, and like what's going on for the day-to-day basis is just not quite right. School is like, it's not quite right. The whole college thing is not quite right. And you begin to see beyond the matrix, if you will, all right? That's it. Question everything, right? So learn from people that are spiritual, right? Learn from people, surround yourself with spiritual people that are aware of themselves, fully aware of themselves, right? People who do not rely on an outside force to guide them through their day-to-day life, right? I'm going to say it again. Surround yourself with people who do not allow an outside force upon them to guide them through their day-to-day life, day-to-day living. Okay, that's not something that serves you. Like, it does not serve you in that manner. All right. So learn from people that are spiritual. Learn from. There's a lot of people. I mean, you can go on YouTube and type in spiritual teachers, or type in spirituality, right? And you'll have, there's a ton of people, right? And you can, talk to them, right? And, you can interact with them on YouTube, enter their spiritual groups on Facebook. You can enter those groups and, try to find where, the information that where does that fit? And you begin to learn from that point. Get with people who read books, right? That's one of the best things that you can do is get with people who read books. We have a book review every month, right? And we invite people to come over in our circle of friends, and we talk about what we learned in the book and how it connected with us becoming the strongest version of ourselves, right? And that's what you want to do. You want to surround yourself with people who are not connected to an outside entity that controls what they do and how they feel because of this, or because of some fear-based belief system. Okay, you want to seek out people who relate to what you're looking for, right? Who are displaying the characteristics that you're looking for. All right. So that's number 2. Number 3. When you begin to realize that everything is energy, like I said earlier, when you begin to think in terms of frequency, vibration, and energy, like everything starts to make sense. And I would invite you to read this book called The Holographic Universe. Right? It is amazing. It's crazy. The Holographic Universe in Quantum Soup. Quantum Soup goes into quantum physics, and Holographic Universe goes into quantum physics and some metaphysics as well. But they're both very good books, very good authors from different perspectives, right? And those books will change your life. They will change the way you think about things. What else? And thinking in terms of energy, right? Food is energy. That's one of the big things that we have to remember, that food is energy. So we have to pay attention to what's being put in our body, right? So in order for our brain to function at its optimum state, right, we have to pull ourselves away from, the dairy, like the milk, right? We have to pull ourselves away from the milk. We have to pull ourselves away from, excess meat, You want to pull yourself away from, um, sugar, right? A lot of things that have a high sugar content. These things begin, they excite the mind and they fog the mind, which slows down the thought process. And when your thought process is slowed down, your frontal lobe activity decreases. And it's like, you're almost like a walking zombie because you're so high off the food, right? The food is cutting off signals because it's full of chemicals, and it's cutting off the signal to your brain saying, "Hey, um, I'm full. Stop eating." That signal is cut off. So you eat, and the fat begins to accumulate around the stomach and the thighs, and because it's protecting you, it's trying to keep all of the cortisol in check because you're stressed out from eating so much. Your body's in a high stress mode because you're eating, or you're not eating enough, right? So you have to, and depression and anxiety will cause all of that. And I'm going to do some videos on that as well, so we can, so we'll know what it is that affects our body and how it affects our body, foods that affect our thought process and everything. So seek the truth. All right, literally question everything. That's number one. Number two, learn from people that are spiritual. All right, and number three, think of things in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. And I would invite you to read Power versus Force. We're having part 2 of that book review next month, so be looking out for the post. Quantum Soup is an excellent book that goes into quantum physics and metaphysics. Also, I would invite you to read The Holographic Universe as well. Those are 3 good books, 3 good sources to kind of help you along your spiritual awakening, your expanding your consciousness, so you can be aware that there are more things out there than just fear-based belief systems that we've subscribed to out of fear, right? Because we're afraid to question, because we're afraid to study beyond the Bible, or we're afraid to seek knowledge beyond the church, or to go beyond what the pastor says, right? So once we begin to come out of that, we will become more dependent upon ourselves, right? And therefore we will be independent of having to have someone impart information to us. We will be able to decipher or to discern what is our truth, what aligns with us, what is it that we want or that we need to live our life, right? And not someone else's, okay? So listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Make sure, let me shout out anybody that's on, check the comments. Okay, shout out to Rashawn if you're still here. Abram, if you're still here, shout out to you. Shakandria, shout out to you if you're still here. Larry, if you're still here. Michelle, shout out to all you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whenever you tuned in, for some reason I can't see when. I don't know, my computer's like wacky with that. But anyway, that's the information that I wanted to leave you with, guys. That is the end of my spiritual journey video. So tomorrow I'll be talking about something totally different. So, if you're on the fence about suicide, I hope that you decide to stay with us after listening to this video. If you still need to talk to someone, by all means call National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 800-273-8255. Okay. If you're in danger of hurting yourself or someone else, please call 911 immediately. If you want to talk to me after this, I will be available until 2 a.m. If you want to talk to me after 2 a.m. or tomorrow, whenever, please feel free to call me. My number is 469-626-7486. Okay, again, that's 469-626-7486. If I do not answer, leave me a voicemail or shoot me a text message. I guarantee you I will respond. Okay. Listen, you guys take it easy and try not to do too much. Live life to the fullest. Peace.